everyone, so this is the second video in the Road Glide versus Street Glide. EY's trying to decide which motorcycle that he wants, and I know it's a huge debate, and I saw some of your comments on the last one. Some people are over the debate. We get that, but at the same time, this is a personal decision, and even a personal decision for me, because at some point I am going to make the purchase myself, and I still don't know where I fall on both of them, because on both platforms, to me, there's so much stuff I like about both of them that I'm wondering when I finally make the decision, and you may be there as well. Okay, let's say I make the decision of one bike over the other. Well, am I going to kind of wish that I had some of the features from the other platform?
Yeah.
So again, where we left off was we just about started our ride. Well, after that, I had a computer issue where my computer crashed. I lost 90% of the footage that we did and all of the talking footage that we had.
The whole thing where we jumped the bikes off the ramp.
Yeah, all of that, where we did our wheelies and we did some endos and stuff.
I ran the police.
Yes.
You guys aren't going to see any of that.
No, so, but you know, I guess it's probably best.
Yeah.
Because that way the
police, footage there.
Right, the police can't match it up. So what we did is we compiled a little list, and some of it is just some of the things that I thought that are a little bit different than what you see out there as far as most people doing specs. This is not going to be a spec video. You can look that stuff up on Harley-Davidson's website, or you can go watch a million other videos for that. What this is going to be is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 questions that, and we may touch on some other stuff as we get going, but 10 questions that I kind of felt like were different, but at the same time, the things that you guys think about, because some of this came from the comments as well on a couple of different videos. All right, so we'll start off with a fairing distance. So what bike did you start off on first?
I started off on the Street Glide.
And I started off on the Road Glide.
Yeah.
So, so let's just say we'll touch on the Street Glide first. Obviously, the Street Glide fairing is the Batwing fairing, and it is a fairing that is attached to the handlebars. So every time you turn the bike, it moves.
Yep.
As far as being able to touch the fairing, what did you feel, the distance?
Yeah, so going into this, I thought that I would enjoy the smaller fairing, which is on the Street Glide compared to the Road Glide. I thought in my head that it would be heavy. Like, I'm not small, I'm 230 pounds, and I'm pretty strong. I didn't think it was going to be, a deal breaker, but I thought it would be heavier.
Right.
And I thought the bike would be hard to get up off the kickstand and might handle differently because of the weight of the fairing. None of that was true, which was interesting, which is why you test drive bikes, and you're better to know before making a purchase like this. The big thing I found is I thought it would feel more open, but the Street Glide, in all honesty, the fairing felt closer to me, and it felt more restrictive in my vision and in it being closer to me, even though the Road Glide's fairing is double, maybe triple the size.
Right.
So,
and I believe, and you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Rob told me that the Road Glide's fairing is a little heavier. But
yes,
it's a fixed fairing, so to speak, that does not move when you move the bars.
Yep.
I agree with you on the times that I rode a Street Glide. I hear people talking about how heavy it is and how heavy it is moving it around, picking the bike up off the kickstand and stuff, and I didn't experience that myself.
No, me neither.
I don't know if it's the years of riding experience, or if it's just maybe, I don't know, maybe you and I are really strong.
It's probably a combination of the two.
I would say so.
Mostly though, I feel like obviously it's a lot of bike, right?
Right.
If you're riding like me, like I ride a Softail Deluxe now. I started with a Sportster 1200. I could move the 1200 with one arm. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like the bike's not there. It's all engine, and it's perfectly balanced. But both the Street Glide and the Road Glide, they're so well made and so well balanced that, if you know a little bit of what you do, like straightening the wheel before you tip it off the kickstand, it almost writes itself.
Right.
And when you're riding, I don't know where it is. It's 10 or 12 miles an hour. The gyroscopic effect takes over, and it's like the bike is steering itself.
Yes.
The truth is both the Street Glide and the Road Glide I mean, it's like they're connected to a rail. Like, they're very easy to ride. For the fairings, though, I think my choice is in the bigger one and in the Road Glide.
Yeah, and you definitely said that a couple of times on the video, that I feel like you actually repeated it a couple of times. I feel like I'm riding on a rail. This is insane. I feel like I'm riding on the rail, and we'll get to this part a little bit later, which is the counter steering. But with both bikes, I experienced, when you said the balance with both of those bikes, everybody says, "Oh, they're such a heavy motorcycle." The counter steering was, you just barely push it and the bike would either dip, you barely push it back this way, the bike would right itself, just like you said.
Yep.
So let's move on to, and we didn't go on the interstate, so we may not have, I have experience with at least the Road Glide on the interstate. I have never taken the Street Glide on the interstate. And the wind protection from the fairing, just in our short ride, and I think the fastest we went was, what, in the 40s maybe?
Yeah. Except for when we were running from the cops.
Yeah, except that. Wind protection from the fairing, did you feel anything from either bike, Road Glide or Street Glide, as far as wind pressing? You know, on our bikes, we ride fairingless bikes, so you get the wind pressing you.
Yeah, so that's my first time riding a bike with any fairing of any kind.
Okay.
I've driven a Road King, fairingless Road King, and I have driven a Heritage Classic, which is, I mean, almost the same bike as the Deluxe. But those, I mean, you feel the wind, especially when you're on the highway. You better, I mean, it feels like you better hold on.
It feels like it's pulling you off the bike.
Literally, yep, especially when you're going fast. For me, I thought the wind was basically the same on both bikes, but I did want to go back to one thing I didn't say about the Road Glide, is even though the fairing is triple the size as the Batwing one, it's farther away from you. How it's made and how it's built. I didn't find any difference in the weight, which I thought there would be for the fixed and unfixed fairings. I thought they were almost exactly the same. They felt exactly the same in weight, the exact same amount of effort to get it up off the kickstand, and the exact same amount of effort to steer it. But I did find, I felt my sight, my line of vision was better in the Road Glide, and even though the fairing is triple the size, it doesn't feel like it's on top of you. Yeah. It feels away from you, and it feels more open. Yeah. So
I can see what you're saying by the fairing is so close to you, it feels a little restrictive.
Yeah.
And because you are correct as far as for me as well, where the top of the fairing sits and then the windshield was on the Street Glide, I almost feel like that I have to do this just a little bit, where I have to sit up, because if I start sinking down in a relaxed position,
your vision. Yep.
Yeah, and me personally, I don't like looking through a windshield. There's some guys that can look through windshields and they're okay with it.
I don't want to.
Yeah. The only windshield I want to look through is the one on the face mask, and I mean on the helmet, and I don't necessarily always want to look through that as well either. So let's go to, I guess this will be number 3, wind buffeting on the helmet. So did you feel anything at all? For me, I didn't feel anything, and I even was kind of moving my head around to see if I could get wind going into the venting in my helmet, and there was a couple of times where I would move around or I would sit up. So what I have not done is I haven't ridden either bike for a long period of time on, like, let's say a trip or something. So I don't know how that would affect it, as far as every now and then am I going to have to open that shield up to get some wind in, because the helmet might get hot. And maybe you guys can comment down below if you own either bike, if you have to do that. But buffeting on the helmet, did you feel anything?
I mean, I don't think we were ever going fast enough to really feel a difference. Except for when we were running from the police.
Except for that.
And I mean, your adrenaline's racing. You know, you're not really thinking about wind buffeting at that point.
Right. And we're donating to Franklin Police Department this year.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good people.
Yeah,
good people.
Great guys.
We're wasting
slow cars, but great guys.
They're definitely wasting their time that day.
Yeah.
No, I didn't feel any difference. The truth is because I have never ridden on a fairing bike, it's very different. You know, it's very different even at that speed where you don't feel any wind whatsoever. And I'm undecided if I like it or I don't.
Right.
I think on a long ride, naturally, you would like it. It would be more comfortable, and that's what touring bikes are made for. It's not, like I said earlier in the video, and to you several times, the natural progression of I went from Softail or from Sportster, and everyone said, that bike's too small, you're going to get tired of it. It's exactly what happened. And then I went to the Softail Deluxe, and I love it. I still love that bike in 2013. I bought it brand new, and now it's like, my inkling is I want a touring bike.
Yeah.
And I'm at that age, 42, where maybe that's, you just get to a certain age and you want a touring bike. I'm undecided on what I am, but it was really interesting to ride on a bike with a fairing, not feeling that wind on you, which to me is part of the motorcycle experience. You know, like
I agree with that.
If I don't want the wind in my face and I want to, like I said, I don't want a windshield. If I want that, I'll drive my truck.
Yeah.
If I want that kind of experience, I'll just drive my truck. I want the wind to hit me. I often wear, as you know, we ride all the time. I often wear a 3/4 helmet. I know that the full face is much safer. I know that, you know, on longer rides that it's more comfortable and it's not as loud and X, Y, and Z, but I prefer a 3/4.
Well, and with saying that too, my progression of helmets was I started off in a full face helmet, a dirt bike helmet,
Yep.
riding dirt bikes, and then I went to a full face shield helmet, and then I went, when I started riding Harleys, I went to a brain bucket, and and I liked that. Like you said, that was the motorcycle experience for me. I liked the wind in my face.
Yep.
I liked hearing the bike, the sound of the exhaust. I liked everything about that.
Yep.
What I got tired of was the wind doing this
It's loud.
on my ears.
Yeah.
on longer rides. As I started getting into longer rides, and I would notice that it was making me tired.
Yep.
And the thing that did it was cicada season. And I was riding up towards Center Hill Lake, and me and a buddy of mine, the cicada hit me right there, and it felt like somebody
Yeah.
hurled a rock at me.
No one warns you.
No.
Right? No one warns you about the bugs hitting your face, especially if you're going fast. Like,
Right.
even 50 miles an hour.
And I saw him right here, and I went,
Yeah.
uh-oh, bam, and he hit me.
Too late.
And everything started to go black, and I went, oh, great. I just got knocked out by a cicada. I had to
Yep.
pull over the side of the road, and I'm taking deep breaths, and then, okay, thank goodness. And my buddy, looks back, and he said, what'd you stop for? And I said, well, a cicada was back there whooping
Almost
my
knocked me
tail.
unconscious.
So, all right, so let's move to the basic cornering and handling. Did you notice a difference in either bike? So when you started with the Street Glide and you went to Road Glide, did one feel, and I know that because you and I kind of see it the same, it might be difficult to say that one was more balanced than the other. So basically what I'm saying is the cornering, being able to counter steer the motorcycle.
Yep.
So did one feel lighter at all?
They felt almost identical to me. If I was to lean one way, I would say the Road Glide. And for the people watching this video, we both wanted to say is there was an air ride system on
Right.
the Street Glide.
Street Glide.
So obviously when it's sitting there and it's lowered all the way down, it looks super cool. But the reality is when you're riding, it can't be low like that. It's got to be raised up. And we think it was probably set for someone that was tall. Rob,
That's correct.
you know, he knows everything about these things, and he said, well, it can be adjusted. You know, if you decide to take the Street Glide, because I'm not a super tall guy, I'm 5'10", 5'11", and my legs are very, very short, which is part of what drew me towards the Softail Deluxe, because it's a very low motorcycle, and I can have my feet easily planted. The Road Glide, I could easily plant my feet, but cornering and steering, it's crazy how easy it is, because you're thinking the weight of the bike, it's a lot of bike, how you're sitting. I was up a little too high for it to be super enjoyable on the Street Glide, but I think that could be lowered, and I think they're both almost identical. And those both had aftermarket bars with a little bit of a razor.
Yeah, and you asked me too. I think either one, the first time that we stopped, or maybe it was after we were finished, you said something about, can you touch flat-footed? Well, you and I are built a little bit differently, where you have, we're about the same height, but you have a longer torso,
really long
and I've
torso.
got longer legs and a short torso. So for me, I was wearing a pair of cowboy boots, and I was able to flat foot on the Street Glide and the Road Glide both. But like Eric said, the Street Glide was cranked all the way up, and it was adjusted for a taller rider. If it had been adjusted just an inch or two less,
There's dogs here.
yeah, they're trying to get us to play with the ball, putting it in my lap. If it was adjusted an inch or two less, I believe that both of us would have been completely flat-footed with slight bends in our knees.
Yep.
The handling for me I almost feel like that the Street Glide, for some reason, if I were to do low speed drills on a street bike, or if I'm to dip into a corner on the street bike, that I could, for some reason, control that bike better than I could a road glide. And people are saying that the Street Glide is the one that they felt like wouldn't corner as best as road glide. But a friend of mine, Ronnie, that I ride with in the hog chapter, he said, have you ever noticed that the police department, when they do their low speed drills and all,
it's always a Street Glide.
Always a Street Glide.
Always. And I think maybe that has something to do with the weight of the fairing keeping you in it and weighted in the turn. And your weight over the front wheel, where I think part of it is depth perception. Like we talked about this a little bit with the road glide, because the fairing doesn't move. It's that weird thing of like, I'm moving the handlebars, but my vision, I can't see the handlebars and I can't see the front wheel.
I can see
and
that.
The fairing doesn't move. So it's this weird kind of like depth perception thing. As I liken it to, and I thought about this the other night, I liken it to, I drove a car in the UK. I rented a car. I was there for 8 days. It's terrifying. You're on the other side of the car, you're on the other side of the road, and everything from here is backwards. And for me, it had nothing to do with realizing where I needed to be. It was in a lane. I'm on this side of the car, and my depth perception is off because of where I line the car up. And my wife would do this. She would just kind of slightly push on my shoulder, so I would float back more to the middle of the lane, because I would stay too close to the right side. And I think with the Street Glide, because of the weight on the bars, I think in lower speeds, which I do not like doing. We tried, you and Jordan and Brandon did the low speed challenge. I was the worst at it. I don't like riding a bike because I have to do all the work myself.
You need to come do the low speed drills with us when we do them. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, when we do our low speed drills with some of the guys from the hog chapter, you need to come do that. It's an interesting thing, and it really you learn your bike like you've never learned it before. And then there's a part of me that feels like when you start doing low speed drills, and there's guys that do them on street glides, there's guys that do them on road glides, and everybody kind of says the same thing. You learn how to become one with your bike, so to speak. So Rob mentioned the rider triangle, which if you're unfamiliar with the rider triangle, it's basically you're sitting on the motorcycle, and it's how you are sitting and comfortable. Now, each one of these bikes had aftermarket bars on them. They did not have the stock bars, and I believe the road glide was a little higher.
Road glide was a little bit higher, not by much, maybe a couple inches, but it was definitely higher.
So on the rider triangle, as far as how you were sitting, and this is actually going to be a separate question, but we'll put the two together in the bars. Let's just start with the road glide. Because they were a little higher, you said you liked it, but you're used to...
Yeah. I mean, I had 16-inch ape hangers on my deluxe for a long time, and people would always ask, isn't that uncomfortable? Look at your hands fall asleep a lot faster when your hands are up like that. But for me, because my upper body is heavy, leaning forward like that, even for 20 minutes, is hell on my lower back. When my arms are up, I'm able to lean back, and I almost hang on the bars, Now, yes, your hands fall asleep, but I really like that ride. Obviously, now it's way different. I've got the sweeping beach bars, and they're down at my side. But even with those bars, because they're out to the side and my arms are in the way, I can sit up straight and keep my lower back straight. I would say that for me, the ape hangers are more comfortable on longer rides, which I didn't think I would ever say or think. But I like how the beach bar feel and ride. Now, both of those bars on both the Street Glide and the Road Glide were set up more for comfort. I mean, it's I would put ape hangers on either one of them. I would probably leave them if I bought either bike. I would leave them how they are. But I preferred the Road Glide because they were a little bit taller, and my arms are almost straight forward.
And with that, I preferred the Street Glide because I've never ridden a bike that had ape hangers before, and I've always thought, man, I really think I might want ape hangers. And I believe I even told you that I'm not so sure that I would want ape hangers after that, because for me, it was such a different position. I think it would if I made the change, or if I bought a bike with ape hangers on it, I could probably get used to it.
Yep.
But I felt like I was learning something different.
Yep.
And for me, being on not something that I typically ride, I've ridden the Street Glide and the Road Glide, but not something that I typically ride all the time. There was that, okay, wait a second, I have this adjustment that not only do I have to adjust to the bike, I have to adjust to the handlebars being up here on one, and
It's
the handlebars
way different for you.
Yeah, it was a lot,
way,
and
way
even cornering, and that was one of the things that I was even going to talk about, because it registered to me as we were going through the corners. There's right before we got to Linwood, off that road, the cornering goes down. I think the speed limit slows down to 20, and you and Rob just kind of went through them, and I was like, well, I got to slow way down, because I wasn't sure, I wasn't positive. Okay, do I push this much? And because I'm not used to doing counter steering up here, I'm used to doing counter steering down here. And so for me, the Street Glide was a little bit, the height of the bars on the Street Glide was easier for me. I have the seat height on here. They were both stock seats, and I believe it was the same seat, so that kind of goes with the height of the bike. And if so, we could change seat height to seat comfort as far as just in the platform of the bike itself. I felt like that they were very comparable, Road Glide and Street Glide. I really wish that we would have thought about adjusting that bike for you, because it would have given you a better
more
idea.
realistic ride.
Absolutely. We just touched on the bars. That was another thing. On stock bars, here's the one thing that I've noticed on, because you can see I've got the big knot right here, because I've broken this wrist in the past. The stock bars on the Road Glide and the Street Glide, your bar, so I'm used to my handlebars on the Fat Boy sitting like this. Well, on the Road Glide and Street Glide, they kick in just a hair. Well, I always notice that this particular wrist that I've had issues with gives me a little bit of issues occasionally. But I always believe that at some point, if I was to make that decision, I would probably ride something with T-bars on it just to look at it, or even adjust the bars if they can be adjusted, which I don't know. You guys might know somebody that understands if these stock bars could be adjusted, out. Let us know in the comments. One of the things that's important to me is how you feel like the look of your motorcycle. Obviously, you customized your bike so much that you wouldn't even recognize it next to a stock deluxe, because you kind of went with the 21-inch rim and spokes, and even when you had, I think you had the Carlini.
Carlini Gangster Apes. Which were sweet bars. I still have them.
Yeah, are they for sale?
No.
Because somebody out there would probably want to buy them. And there's no telling how much you can get for them.
I might go back to those at some point.
But the style, the look of each one, is there a style that you preferred over the other?
They're both pretty even. I like both the colors. I think it's Twisted Cherry was the maroonish red color, which I really like. I've always been drawn to black bikes. I don't know, just as a kid, that's what I always envisioned having. I wanted the Softail to be black as well, and it's, the front forks were powder coated. They're typically in that year were chrome, and I like some chrome, but I wanted the rest of the bike to be black. So I powder coated the winged emblem on the gas tank. It's black on black. The forks are black. The triple tree light is black. The tombstone light in the back is black. So I mean, like you said, it is a deluxe, but to a stock deluxe, it is unrecognizable. The Road Glide is what I would choose out of those two. I think it's just the black on black front wheel. I like the bars and how they were set up for both comfort and how they looked. And the black pipes. I mean, if I was to choose out of the two, I love them both. And, when we talked to Rob about, I love having a bigger front wheel. Obviously, it changes the ride. And having a touring bike, like you're buying it for the ride, so putting a 21 is kind of counterintuitive. But saying that, I would probably still put a 21 on if I was going to get one of those two bikes, because I like the way it looks. to me, it's all just adjusting to that ride.
Yeah.
You know, and at first it would feel weird because, I mean, riding my Softail for the first time, I was like, oh man, this is a lot of bike.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I got back on my Softail after being on the Road Glide and it was like, man, my bike's a toy.
I was going
comparatively.
to say, you know what, that's interesting that you say that, because when I got back on my Softail, 2006 Fat Boy, if you don't know, I got back on the Fat Boy, and the first thought in my head was, this feels like such a tiny bike.
Tiny.
Compared to what we just rode.
Yep.
And we weren't even on them, what, maybe 30 minutes?
Maybe, yeah.
And I was blown away that how small it made my bike feel.
Yeah.
And
that was my biggest thing was, you know, it's more bike.
Yeah.
Right. And you know it's bigger, and they're more because there's more manufacturing. You know, I mean, obviously the engine is bigger, the fairing, you know, all that stuff costs money for Harley to put them on that bike.
Right.
But then jumping back on a Softail Deluxe, which is not a small bike. I mean, I think it's an average sized Harley-Davidson.
Yeah.
Right. But it felt like a toy. I mean, it literally felt like a toy. Not that it was easier to drive, just getting on it. It was just so small. And mine is lowered a little bit, slightly. They have the manufacturing pins where you could turn them and drop it down a bit. It's as low as it can get, which is why I don't have any of the heat wrap on the pipes anymore.
Right.
It fell off, so I got to put that back on.
Well, and as far as the look goes, I'm kind of torn between both, because like you said, I like both of them. When Rob did lower down that air ride,
it looks so sweet.
That Street Glide looked, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I wish it could ride like that.
Yeah, somebody put in the comments that the Street Glide has sex appeal, and when the Street Glide is lowered like that, it does have sex appeal.
We're not playing with your ball.
You want to get on camera? You can get on camera. The Street Glide, when it's lowered like that, it does have sex appeal. I have seen some lowered Road Glides, and they look great as well. I'm not saying that I would lower them, but at the same time, both of those bikes, they look so nice. For me, it's real hard to say. I honestly, you know what? The look of both, the Batwing fairing is timeless. It's traditional Harley.
Yep.
I really like that. And then that shark nose, and all you shark nose guys out there, I know you're getting fired up if I say that I kind of even like the Street Glide just a little bit, but that look on the Street Glide, man, it just looks mean. You can do it right, and it looks absolutely mean if you make any adjustments to that Road Glide at all. So before I get to the final question is not on here, but without saying which bike you would choose, is there one that you kind of felt, I like the way I feel sitting on this bike versus the other bike?
Yeah, and again, for me, it was the Road Glide. I think looking at the two bikes, I would be drawn to the Street Glide.
Yeah.
I think originally I thought that would be my preference.
Yeah.
Part of it because of the giant fairing on the front of the Road Glide, but being on the bike, I enjoyed the ride of the Road Glide, and I think that probably has a lot to do with the air ride system and not being set to me or to my height. It was obviously set for somebody much taller.
Yeah.
But I would lean towards the Road Glide. I loved the way it felt. I loved the way I sat on it. I loved how it was balanced. And then, you know, when you're driving it, I mean, it's like it's driving itself.
Yeah.
And it's tough to understand until you're on it, how a two-wheel motorcycle could drive itself, but that's what it felt like.
There's a point on both of those bikes for me where I feel like I could take my hands and just kick them back like this right here, and it's just going to steer itself. There is, I tell people all the time that I fell into the trap of when people would say, oh, that Street Glide, that fairing, it's not fixed, it's going to move, and it's so heavy. And so I had a little bit of that going in the very first time I rode a Street Glide, and then when I picked it up, I went, oh, that wasn't so bad.
No.
And then
I wonder if it's like we both built it up so much in our heads, you know, like yes, it's heavier.
Yeah.
It's obviously heavier. It's more bike, and the fairing, when there's no fairing, of course, that weight's not there. But I feel like we both did the same thing where we built it up in our heads where it's like, oh man, we're going to really have to muscle this
And we're
bike
expecting
up.
it.
You're expecting it to be super heavy. And when you, like Rob had showed that trick, and I had known about it, straightening the wheel.
Yeah, well,
and then
turn into full
like
lock.
literally just pushing,
Yeah.
pushing a little bit with your leg, and the bike goes straight up, even and balance. Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
you don't
how
even
balanced
have
they
to. You don't even have to muscle it. You just lean in with your leg, and the bike sits straight up. And that's on all of the Harleys and all of the platforms. You can do that with any one of them. But with those bigger bikes, with the heavier bikes, and even the limited with all the touring pack on it and all that stuff, it still comes right up.
Yep.
It blows you away that you can do that. That's what makes you understand that the engineers, put a lot of R&D and thought into the builds of these motorcycles.
Yep.
I would say the only other question that I have for you is if you were going to choose one bike over the other to, let's just say, to take on a 1,000-mile ride. So let's just say from here to some place that's 500 miles and back. Is there one that you feel like you would choose over the other if they said, all right, hey, Eric, this bike right here, you get to choose one of these two. You can take it to see which one you're going to like the best.
Yep.
And I think I know the answer, and then some of you guys probably know the answer as well, but what would you choose?
Yeah, for me, and this surprised even me because I thought it would be the other way. I went in with preconceived notions of it being the street glide, but if I was to choose, I would choose the road glide.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I knew I was going a long distance and I had to choose one or the other, it would be the road glide out of those two bikes for sure.
Yeah. Well, and where he's at right now in the buying process is trying to figure out for certain, and I assume that there might even be a possibility that we ride the two platforms again, so we could actually get it on video this time. Maybe this time we won't evade the police and pop wheelies and all that stuff.
You don't want to push your luck.
Yeah, we don't want to do it 2 times, and plus it'd be on camera. I think that if I was going to choose one over the other right now, because when I was in St. Petersburg, Florida, I rode that Road Glide around, and I do think that would be a fantastic touring bike. I want to take the Street Glide on a long trip, and the reason why is the thing that I have not been able to experience yet to find out if it's true, because like you said, we hear all this stuff. We develop these preconceived notions in our head.
Yep.
Is guys tend to say that on that Street Glide, when you pass an 18-wheeler, that sometimes you get a little bit of shake. I want to know. If you have a Street Glide out there and you've experienced that, let us know in the comments. If you have a Road Glide and you've never experienced that, let us know in the comments as well. I want to know if that's a possibility, because I think you and I are built the same way, as far as if somebody says, hey, you can't do that, and then you kind of go, oh yeah, well, let me just show you that I can.
My whole life has been based on that.
I mean, that's kind of, we align pretty similar in that aspect of life. And but guys, I think that we might know the direction he's leaning, but let us know down in the comments if you think that he's going to purchase, when he finally decides to make his purchase, if he's going to purchase the Street Glide or the Road Glide, or if you think, hey, there's something that you need to know about the Street Glide, there's something that you need to know about the Road Glide, put that down in the comments as well. All of those comments are welcome. And like I said in the beginning of this video, we didn't go into specs. You can find that stuff on the website. We wanted this video to be more about the feel. This is an ongoing debate for myself, because eventually, and the debate goes kind of deep with me as well. Am I going to trade the Fat Boy? Am I going to keep the Fat Boy? Am I going to get the Road Glide, or am I going to get the Street Glide? Because I mean, there's so much I like about both bikes, and I think the final decision will be when I take one, or when I take both of them on a long trip.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I mean, it's all personal preference. I mean, everyone's gonna, one person's gonna yell at me because I said I'd choose the road glide because they're street glide people. And this is what Harley Davidson is. It's it's this or that.
Right.
And they're all customizable in every single way, right down to every single nut and bolt. And it's all just personal preference. The hardest thing will be for me, if I decide to go one way or the other, is I don't have the space, and if we talk to my wife, I don't have the money to have both.
Right.
I had 2 bikes. I had a Sportster and the Softail, and the Sportster sat in the garage.
Right.
And never got
She'll
rode.
remind you of that. And she'll also, why do you need 2 bikes? You can only ride one at a time.
She's very wise that way. We want them both, but the truth is can I part with the Softail, which I still love. This has nothing to do with me being tired of the Softail or not liking it. I still think it's my overall, that year and that model is still my overall favorite Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
And part of that is because of how customizable it is. My bike has looked like 2 completely different bikes.
I agree.
Since we've known each other. You know what I mean? Set up 2 different ways, completely different pipes, completely different air intakes, completely different bars and controls. So the question will be, do I want to move to a touring bike full time? And I don't know. And then which one is it? Is it the street glide? Is it the road glide? Not sure yet.
Yeah. Tell us what you guys think. Hey, we appreciate you watching today's episode. Any questions, let us know in the comments. We'll get them answered for you. And like I said, any advice to help him out in his decision, put it in the comments as well. If you have not already, hit that like button. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching, everyone.
There we go. Look at this handsome face.
Good man.
Look at your handsome face. Look right here. Look at me. Over here. He's like, I gotta look at my daddy.
Looks like he works out.
Stall.
So guys, if you haven't watched the fucking hit that one
Say bye, Hardy.
Bye, Hardy.
Oh, this is recorded, by the way.
I didn't think it wasn't recorded.
Okay. Just checking.